Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well this great afternoon in Indiana with some amazing weather. I want to thank you for joining the Indiana Economic Development Micro-Internship webinar. We are thankful for the support and excited to partner with Parker Dewey to launch this amazing program in Indiana. I'm Tony Denhart, the Executive Vice President for Workforce and Talent for the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. The IEDC is charged with growing the state's economy, driving economic development, and helping businesses grow, launch, and locate in the state. The IEDC is laser focused on adding careers, not just jobs, but high-wage careers for our children and our children's children. Careers that will keep our early career talent in Indiana to build their lives and to build their prosperity in fulfilling the American dream. One of the IEDC's workforce and talent focus areas is in partnership with you, state agencies, and many other workforce partners. And that is to ensure that we have the right talent at the right time, at the right place, and with the right skills for Hoosier companies. It is as simple as supply and demand. Workforce demand is created, and we are working closely with our workforce experts and partners across the state to deliver the workforce supply across all three talent pipelines: high school graduates, university and college, and the adult population. The IEDC workforce and talent team's role is focused in 5 strategic areas. The micro-internship program will touch on 2 of the 5 areas: awareness and retention of university and college students. We are working with Parker Dewey because they have a well-established program and a proven history that will support the goals of the program. We are launching this program to bring awareness of Indiana companies and the amazing careers they have to offer to university and college students in Indiana. Micro-internships benefit the student, university, and company. Kristen will provide details on the value and process when I wrap up. This program will benefit small, medium, large, existing, expanding, and new companies in Indiana. I want to share a few facts on the state of economic development in Indiana. Since January of 2022, Team Indiana has secured approximately $78 billion in new capital expenditure commitments from companies that are expanding and coming to Indiana. These commitments will generate over 53,000 new high-wage, high-tech careers. Indiana's investments continue to fuel career growth in Indiana. From Marino Med's initial investment of over $20 million to launch their first U.S. advanced therapy in Brownsburg for cutting-edge cancer treatments, to Eli Lilly's $9 billion investment at the LEAP Research and Innovation District in Lebanon, Indiana. This will boost their manufacturing capacity to meet the demand for their life-changing medicines. And then other industries like automotive, aerospace and defense, hyperscale data centers, and more. 2.5 years ago, the EV battery manufacturing and semiconductor industries didn't exist in Indiana. Today, Indiana has attracted 4 EV manufacturing investments and 7 semiconductor companies, again, over the last 2.5 years. Just those 4 EV manufacturing investments will generate 5,000 new jobs or careers in the state of Indiana. Some of the goals of the micro-internship program are to bring awareness of companies and the great career opportunities to Indiana college students, to retain more Indiana college students upon graduation, and again, to support Indiana's small, medium, and large companies' early career hiring needs. The entire team is looking forward to working with you as we launch the micro-internship program in Indiana. Thank you for your continued support and your commitment to launch this program in Indiana. Kristen will now provide an overview of the program and our ask to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. So could not be more excited on behalf of the Parker Dewey team to welcome you all and to officially kick off this incredible program. Tony and I were joking before the call that this is several years in the making, but also huge kudos to Tony and to the entire IEDC team, because this is the only one of statewide micro-internship program other than the state of Kansas. So there's 2 nationwide, that's it. And again, so excited to officially welcome you all and share how we're going to collaborate to bring these incredible opportunities to Indiana students and companies. So my name is Kristen Schrader, and I lead the partnership team here at Parker Dewey, which means getting to interact with hundreds of colleges and universities nationwide in support of your students and your employer partners. Those of you who are not familiar with Parker Dewey, no worries. We're going to give you a few basic things first, just to make sure everybody's starting from the same place. But then we'll dig into more details about the IEDC Micro-Internship Program, as well as a variety of different ways that it can help support you in your work supporting students, employers, and perhaps even some other stakeholders. So stay tuned. There's a lot of information headed your way. So yes, we are recording this. Yes, we will send you the slides and the recording, as well as a variety of other resources. Any of you who are familiar with Parker Dewey know that we have a lot of resources, and we try to make things as easy for you as possible. My colleagues and I, my colleague Annie in particular, who's on the call managing the chat, we come from higher ed. We know that this is a very busy time of the year. And so welcome back to campus for everybody who is welcoming students. And so we want to, again, make this easy. That being said, if you have questions along the way, we will be managing the chat. We'll have some Q&A at the very end, but if you do have questions between now and then, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to address them as we go through. So just to give you all a little bit of an overview, how does Parker Dewey help your students, organizations, and you? Well, for students, our goal is to create equitable opportunities for students across the board. And we'll talk about this, but first or second year students all the way through your recent grads, to help bridge the gap from college to career. Now for companies, we are a hiring tool trying to equip companies with an amazing resource and way to connect to early career talent. Our method of doing this is through micro-internships. We'll talk a lot more about that in just a moment, but short-term paid professional projects. We originated this concept back almost 10 years ago, so nothing new here, but this is something that we're excited to collaborate with programs like this, because there are still many companies who may not know what a micro-internship is, or who may not necessarily think of how a micro-internship opportunity can be a really fantastic catalyst to creating an early career talent pipeline, which again, we'll talk a lot about. Now, how does Parker Dewey help you in your work with college students and in your role in career services, as many of you probably are in that capacity? Well, we work with hundreds of colleges and universities, and helping, again, students launch their careers, employers recruit early career talent, like the companies that you see at the bottom of the slide, and thousands of others that you may or may not have heard of. So what are micro-internships? Key things here are short-term, paid professional projects. Now, most of these projects are going to be 10 to 40 hours of work in total for the student to complete. And I say student, but we're also including recent grads as well. So folks who are in that early career stage of one's professional life. These projects all involve a specific deliverable and a specific timeline that's set by the organization. This provides organizations a very flexible year-round way to recruit, to continue to fill their talent pipeline. But our mission, again, here at Parker Dewey is to make it easy. So we handle the administration of these projects, including the payroll, the legal, and other types of HR types of things. Now, the payment is key, because that ensures that students across the board are able to participate. Students have bills to pay just like the rest of us, and we just firmly believe that in order for it to be an accessible opportunity, and if we are asking students to do real work like we are, because every micro-internship is a real project, that they should be paid. And fortunately, thanks to the generosity of the IEDC program, Indiana-based organizations can have a micro-internship that is fully funded up to 20 hours of work by the student. The students would receive $400 upon completion. This is all pre-funded, so there is no out-of-pocket cost to those organizations. So that's, in a nutshell, a little bit about the program, and we'll talk more specifics in a moment. One other thing to keep in mind is this is designed to be professional tasks, but recognizing that this is a college student who's going to be completing the work. So the types of tasks are similar to what a student would do during their first job after college, or maybe what your students were already doing this past summer as an intern. But again, flexibly assigned all year round. And just to give you a few ideas about where this might fit in, I want to highlight 3 specific examples of companies who thought about a micro-internship as more than just that granular project. Because many of you may already be thinking about, or think of your own to-do list, and that's wonderful. But where the power of a micro-internship really lies is when these organizations can find a student through the project and hire them long-term as an intern, as a full-time employee. And just to give you 3 specific examples, M. Holland, they're an Illinois-based plastics manufacturer that's probably not on too many students' radar. Their goal with their micro-internship was to introduce themselves to college students because they recognize that this is a high potential, high quality talent pool that they need to get in front of. Think of the companies who are coming to your career fair that students don't know who they are, so they just walk on by the table. That's a company like M. Holland, but they use this micro-internship, and through this project, sounds like a pretty interesting project, and it was paid, that attracted hundreds of these students that were excited about these different opportunities. They ended up picking a student and hiring them on full-time thanks to that project because they saw the quality of the students' work, their critical thinking, their data analytics skills, core skills that are hard to assess from a resume, but that allowed the student to really shine thanks to this project. Similarly, Northrop Grumman, and I'll shout out to our folks from Purdue because the student I'll highlight here was a Purdue student who completed that project and was also hired on because, again, these are designed in this case for Northrop Grumman, a defense contractor, so they have and hire thousands of college students. But, for their internships, you oftentimes need to have security clearances and the other types of protocols. But for a micro-internship, they were able to find both technical and non-technical projects that were allowing them to be able to assess those core skills, research skills, attention to detail, things like that. And one other example, Orange Theory Fitness. This was a project not for one of their franchise locations across the country, but rather for their corporate headquarters. They wanted to identify talent for their HR team. And so they created this project that, again, allowed the student to showcase those various core skills. This was a last-minute project, though. They still had an open role to fill for their summer internship program. And so they ended up hiring 3 micro-interns for that particular project to be able to assess several students all on one project. And one of those students they were able to convert for that last open role that they needed to fill this past summer. Those are just several examples, and there's more. Thank you, Annie, for my colleague just put in the chat that you can certainly read through and take a look at. Now, why does this work? At the core, it's because this is how students want to be recruited. Because we asked students, we said, how do you want to engage with companies? And 75% of these students said they want to explore their career paths very early, their first or second year students. Those of you from Ivy Tech that are working with all of these students that are early in their academic program, or even at the 4-year institutions, they're thinking about this the minute they step on campus. And then 71% of them said that the traditional recruiting processes fall short of really allowing them to demonstrate those core skills. And they really are thriving. That's why they're going to school. They want to put their education to work. And then lastly, for those students, they said 95% want those real paid experiences to be able to show what they want to do, but also be able to showcase that they are really a good fit for their team. And for your employer partners, what's in it for them? A lot of things, because we think about it in terms of the pipeline, where they're trying to access and engage and assess and ultimately convert that talent for their open early career roles, as Tony talked about earlier. Well, through this one micro-internship platform on Parker Dewey, they can reach that nationwide pool of candidates. So all of your students, no matter what institution that you're representing today, this is a resource that's available to them right now. There's no IT integration for you. There's nothing that you need to do. It's just invite them to create an account. And we'll talk about how to do that in a moment. Then these employers can then engage the students because they're working on this project. There's already a catalyst for that conversation. They already have something to talk about because they're working together on this project that, yes, is addressing that real business need that the company has, but it's also allowing that student to get that resumeable experience and the company to get to know the student to decide, hey, are they the great next hire for their team? And so through that, they're able to assess, hey, is this student going to be a good fit? And then ultimately convert. And what we're seeing is that those companies who are using micro-internships at scale are not only able to address students who are from historically underrepresented backgrounds, if that's a goal or priority for them. We are seeing significant data, as you can see on that leftmost slide and data point, that over 80% of the students who are selected for micro-internships come from historically underrepresented backgrounds. But also that companies are seeing it directly impact the bottom line with up to an 80% reduction in their overall cost per hire. And even more importantly, those students who completed micro-internships are far more likely to stay at that organization. 98% of the students who have completed micro-internships are still with that employer that they decided to work for and with upon graduation. And compare that to 45% if you look at Bureau of Labor Statistics and data as a whole. And that's, again, significant ongoing cost reductions. And if we think about this program, where the goal is, yes, to connect these students to these opportunities, but also to keep them in Indiana, that's where we're so excited to be able to help facilitate these opportunities and ways for these students and companies to connect. Now, those of you who are familiar with the NACE career readiness competencies, we're also seeing the students say that even with these short-term projects, the impact is significant. You'll see here across all 8 competencies, overwhelmingly, the students are saying that they've improved. But even if they didn't improve, there's a significant number that are also saying, I maybe not have changed, but I did build my confidence. And if we think about the students who are coming from underrepresented backgrounds, students where, like many, this is their first professional experience, this is a critically important finding that we're seeing, and again, through a short 10, 20, 30-hour project. So how does it all work for your students? Well, they create a profile, they see the projects, and if they're selected, they complete the project. Simple as that. And for those of you who are used to, as part of your job, vetting projects or going in and saying, yes, is this something that I should post to my students? You don't have to worry about that with Parker Dewey. We do that on the back end. We make sure this, is it paid fairly? Is it professional? And then it's something that, again, we're taking care of. We're providing the administration of the project, and we're also providing support materials to both the student and the company. Again, we have almost 10 years of doing this, so we've learned a few things, and we are very well equipped with being able to provide the student and the companies with support along the way. So a little bit more granular, most of the students will hear about their program from you. They'll hear about micro-internships from Career Services. And so in partnership with the dozens of Indiana colleges and universities where we already have a partnership, we have a page like IU Northwest and, again, many others, where you can set up and create a custom landing page. And we're happy, and certainly you can reach out, and we'll be happy to set something up for you all if you're not a partner institution. But then they create a profile. It takes less than 10 minutes. They put in some basic information about where they go to school, the kinds of experiences they've had. They can upload a resume if they'd like, and then they see the projects that are currently available. And so for the IEDC micro-internships, those are going to be listed under featured projects. Now, the program's just kicking off now. The projects aren't there yet. We'll hear about this in a moment, and how we can help get some more projects there. But regardless, there's always projects that are open to all students, and your students will see both types of projects when they first log in and create their account. And for every project, they can click details. They can then see more about that particular opportunity, the description of the project, the start date, due date, how much they'll get paid if they're selected, a little bit about the company, and so on. And then if they're interested, they can click apply. And then they can answer at least one short answer application question. And that's immediately sent to the project supervisor to then evaluate who they want to pick for the project. Now, a few things to know. The world of micro-internships moves quickly. And so if you see a project, it may not be there a day or two later. So just something to be aware of as you're thinking about when to promote opportunities. It tends to be very much real time. Similarly, we also will see scenarios, and this happens all the time, where a company will post one project, but select 5, 10, 20 or more students to work on that project. So just when you're looking at an opportunity, that doesn't necessarily mean they're only picking one student. Now, when they are applying for projects, the student completes at least one of these short answer application questions, and as you can see, the quality of those applications can be quite varied. The way to think of this for those of you who work with students is this is not only an application, but also kind of like a written interview. And so if you're coaching and working directly with students, this is their opportunity to shine. And in fact, this is the first thing a company will see when they're evaluating whether they want to pick, in this case, Emma or Wyatt. Now, these are two real students, and Emma was not only selected for the micro-internship, but also ended up getting hired on full-time and actually just received a company-wide award for the quality of work that she does. And Wyatt missed out on the opportunity for that full-time role because Wyatt was never selected for the micro-internship. There's a typo there. It doesn't necessarily because of the length, but rather the typo, the attention to detail. Wyatt didn't upload a resume. Details like that make a big difference. So again, if you're working directly with students, think of this as an opportunity for them to learn, a coachable or teachable moment for you when you're working with students. Now for companies, again, 3 quick, simple process. They post the project, select the student they want to work with, and the work gets done. Now, most of the time, the companies are going to hear about and choose from a template, and we have a landing page that I know my colleague will put in the chat momentarily that you can direct the companies to. Thank you, Annie. And those will show some project examples, some other details about the program. They can click on a template. It pre-populates for that company. It also pre-populates the IEDC micro-internship program, which will make the project only visible to eligible students. So they don't have to think about adding in any of these details. They'll only see students who are eligible. They'll only see and be able to select those who proactively applied to the project. So they'll see those candidates. They can see their resume. They can see their LinkedIn profile, should they have chosen to upload that information. And they'll see those short answer questions. They'll see, do they have strong attention to detail? Do they adequately answer the question? And they'll be able to then decide, yep, this is the student I want to work with, or I think I'll move on to the next candidate. Now, once the micro-intern is selected, the work gets done. So the two will connect via Zoom or however they want to meet to be able to have that real-time conversation to go over the project. And then from there, the student will use the resources that they have as a student at your institution as be able to put to work what they've learned in the classroom to get that real resumeable experience. Now, they'll have that supervisor for the project. They still directly interact with them. This is a real project. This is a real networking opportunity for them. So they can certainly reach out to that individual should they have questions. But we find that the students, these are competitive projects and the students are motivated. Again, remember, this is how they want to engage with companies. So they are motivated to put their best foot forward. And then with a 98% project success rate, as you can tell from that statistic alone, the students do a phenomenal job on these micro-internships. But we also have Parker Dewey there to help. And of course, they can reach out to their supervisor, and we will be reaching out to both the student and these organizations to make sure if they have any questions, etc., they can always reach out to us. So now that we've covered some of the basics, I want to just now dig into the program itself. And as a reminder, few key points. Tony mentioned these earlier, but again, the overall goal here is we want the students to, yes, build awareness, but ultimately we want them to get hired. We want to keep these amazing Indiana students in Indiana. I think about my own experience. I graduated from a school just a little bit to the east of y'all twice and left the state both times. We don't want that with this program. Keep the talent in the state. So for students, your things to keep in mind, it can be any Indiana college or university. That's the only students who are eligible for these projects. They will see this. their friend or friend from high school or whatever that went out of state, they're not going to see these micro-internships. And they need to be at least 18. They also need to have authorization to work in the United States or that individual taxpayer ID number. And I'm happy to talk a little bit more detail about other populations of students that may have barriers around paid work, such as international students or undocumented students. We can certainly talk about those students if you'd like. I'm going to save that for the end, though, just because, again, we have a lot to cover. But certainly we do see both populations are able to successfully complete micro-internships, assuming that they do have that authorization or pre-completion OPT in the case of international students. Companies, for-profit, nonprofit, government, small businesses, you get the idea. It's a very open array of organizations that can participate in the program. The only requirement is they have to have a location in Indiana. That's it. They don't have to be headquartered in the state, but a location in Indiana, they are eligible to post micro-internships as part of this program. The other criteria that we really, really want to emphasize, given the goal of the program, is we want to engage companies that are looking to hire. So companies that have open roles or are anticipating that they're going to need early career talent for internships, full-time roles. This might be a small business that is expecting to grow over the next 6 months. This might be the company that's coming to your career fair in a few weeks. These are the types of organizations that you'll want to invite for this particular opportunity. So how does this help you? Well, lots of different ways, and hopefully the wheels are already starting to turn a little bit on where this might plug in to some of your student and employer engagement, but we'll give you some more ideas shortly. But in general, this is designed to, yes, support your students, and particularly students who are not able to do traditional internships. I think of my own experience in higher ed. My most recent experience was working with largely non-traditional students. And I was in charge of creating an internship program. And yeah, it's kind of hard if the students are already working full-time and have families and are mortgages in many cases in that area. How do they drop everything to go do an internship? Well, they can't. But this particular population, or these projects, are great opportunities for students like the ones I just described. Or think of your student athletes. Maybe if they're in season for their sport, this may not be the best option, but they're not in season year-round in most cases, so this is a great opportunity for those populations. And in fact, we just wrapped up a program with an NCAA Division I football team that, again, they specifically targeted it to be during the summer before their heavy training camp started, but it was a very successful opportunity to give these students some great real-world experience before the busyness of the college football season. Also, your employers. And think about those recruiters, those alumni, those who come to campus, who love your institution, who are dedicated, who are located nearby. Those are great opportunities, and to be able to thank them for their support of your institution. But also think about those companies that are not engaging with your institution and your students, but should be, because maybe they haven't come back to campus after maybe a not so positive experience at a career fair or a poorly attended event. Or maybe they have recently expanded, are now looking for new opportunities to plug in for some open roles that they have, and you have that academic program at your institution, just to cite a couple of examples. The other thing that we will be doing to help you is giving you access to some ever so important data so that you can see the success of the program for your students, for your companies, how much they've earned, etc. We'll be able to share information and insights like that. And so more to come about that in a moment. So here's our ask. And this is what we are needing from you to help your students and your employers make the most of this program, but also be able to make sure your students are as successful as possible. First and foremost, and this is in a definite particular order, is share the program with your employer partners so that there's opportunities that are waiting specifically for your students. Then share the program with your students, and we'll talk about 2 avenues to do so in just a moment. Then think about some of those organizations like the ones I just mentioned who you want to engage or do more with your institution. And then lastly, schedule time with us. We're happy and love to brainstorm with you to customize how you at your institution, given your goals and what strategic imperatives are on the radar right now, we'd love to brainstorm where this could fit in based on what we're seeing at these other partner institutions nationwide. So I'm going to dig into each of these in more detail. First and foremost, the program, sharing it with employers. Keeping in mind the goals here of making sure you're engaging companies with capacity and interest in hiring. And so some of you may have always thought of micro-internships more as, oh, I'm going to promote it to companies who have that short-term project need. Okay, great, and thank you. But for this program, and really to making sure that your students are being supported both now, but also next year's students and next year's, think about engaging companies who are looking to scale. Parker Dewey is a hiring tool. Parker Dewey is a recruiting tool. Parker Dewey in this program allows the students to be able to engage, to show off their skills, to put their skills to work through these projects. And so those companies who are most successful are using micro-internships at scale. And so keeping in mind, those are the ones you want to target. Now, how? Well, we have an event you can invite these companies to next week. And next Thursday, please, you've got the registration, thank you, Annie, right in the chat. And it's next Thursday, 12 Eastern or 11 Central. And even more helpful, hopefully, is we have a pre-crafted email, pre-crafted newsletter and social media blurb that you can plug in and send to your audience, your target audience this afternoon, tomorrow at the latest. There's a program flyer, all this collateral is ready to go. So who do you invite? Well, think about who's coming to your career fairs. What a great opportunity for them to engage with your students in a new way, and we'll talk more about that momentarily. Maybe it's your corporate sponsors, those who are already so committed to your company that they're sponsoring your office in some capacity. Maybe it's your board members. Maybe it's faculty. Maybe it's alumni that attended but now are elsewhere in the state. There's all sorts of ways that they may want to give back. And this could align really nicely with that goal, especially if they don't work in human resources, but are still looking for a way to connect with and stay connected to their alma mater. So thinking about your upcoming events, because I know when I sat in your shoes, that was all I could think about for the fall. Those career fairs, those info sessions, those events that I know you're wanting to drive attendance and making sure that those who are attending have as positive an experience as possible. How can this program help? Well, for those who are coming, this can be a really great way for the career fair attendees to differentiate themselves. Now, very early in my career, I worked in human resources as a recruiter at times and found it very challenging of what do I do for those first and second year students? Because the roles I was recruiting for were for juniors and seniors. And those first and second year students who were amazing, I had to basically say, here's a candy bar. That was it. But wouldn't it have been better if I could have said, you know, I can't offer you that slot for that junior year or that summer internship because of where you are in your academic program, but I have this really great project. Love to consider you for that if you're interested. Here's the information on how you can get started. Companies can post these micro-internships before the career fair to drive attendance and engagement at their booths. Or for those amazing students that they met at your event, this can be something they can send to them afterwards to be able to keep those students engaged, to differentiate themselves from the fog of companies that they're going to meet at the career fair. What a great follow-up for these companies to be able to say, hey, we met at the career fair. Love for you to apply to this project. This is a way to help those companies stand out and have a really positive experience. And again, a no-cost way and a way that you can thank these organizations. So how do you share this? Well, we have a one-page overview about this program that you can add to the career fair packet or the resources that you're emailing to these organizations that are coming. And we have a little blurb about this program, which you can certainly highlight. And we have, again, copy-paste language that you can use right and ready to go. But also thinking about using this more intentionally for some of those companies who you might be talking to that are saying, yeah, we have this specific challenge. We're struggling to fill these roles, or, students don't know who we are. Maybe they're not standing out for whatever reason. These micro-internships can be a great way, as I mentioned a little bit before, to engage those first or second year students, to get onto those students' radar, to keep their organization top of mind. And this can apply not just to those who are coming to the event, but to any company that you are working with who have proactively said, yeah, we need your help, Career Services. How do we best stay connected to your students? Here's the ticket that can really help to differentiate them, to keep those students engaged, because again, this is how the students want to be recruited. Another idea is this micro-internships can be a great student ambassador opportunity for those companies who are looking for a short-term way to reach talented students that may not be coming to the event for whatever it might be, whatever reason. So in terms of next steps here, we've got a guide that can help align with whatever goals the company might be having for recruitment. Micro-internships and where those could plug in can be a nice tactical document that can share your expertise and advice and give specific examples of where and how this can fit in for them. We also have an email series that you can plug and play right into and invite those companies to participate in this program. And again, there's a little blurb that you can include in your next general email to employers. This might be something that you want to plan later on in the academic term after the career events have taken place, or maybe it's to an audience of companies who are not going to be coming to your career fair for whatever reason. Next, thinking about the students. Now, the reason I started with employers and highlighting that is not to say that the students aren't important. We want the students to fully participate in this program. But I will say that the companies, the students get more excited when the companies have posted projects, and especially if they posted projects just for them. And so for those alumni, those key employers, they can, if they want, post projects just for your students. And they can also highlight additional students at other institutions if they wish as well. And they can always filter based on who applies. But the things to emphasize when you're sharing this with students is that micro-internships are real. These are not unpaid simulated projects that you could put on your resume, I guess, but this is a real engagement. This is a networking opportunity. This is resumeable experience that goes in the professional experience section of their resume. And it's paid, which of course is always an added bonus for all students. And then again, these micro-internships are not just designed to be that one and done project. They're designed to help students get hired. They're all should be considered as an audition for that full-time role. And so for the first or second year student, it might be more of an exploratory experience. Am I in the right major? I don't know. I'll do a project and see if that is a good fit. Junior and senior, am I connecting to the right organizations and right opportunities? Well, this project can help differentiate. This project can be yet another experience that they can talk about during that interview to help make sure that they are standing out amongst the competition. Now for your students, we have a plethora of webinars that we regularly host, and you're invited and encouraged to share with your students. So I put the next 3 dates for each of these webinars for your reference, but in the case of the FAQ webinar and then that create your own micro-internship opportunities, those are recorded. And students can see the link to the latest recording and slides right there on the registration page, because we know there is no perfect time in every student's schedule. Recognize that, it's the way it is. But they can also access this information on demand. Now that Career Launcher FAQ webinar, it's just kind of like this. For the students who do well in a webinar type setting, they want to get all the information all in one place, great. That's exactly what that webinar is for. For the student office hours, those are for the students who really want some more direct, specific support. Now, for this particular session, these office hours, they are not recorded because every session is different. And in order to ensure that the students feel comfortable and also just preserving the anonymity for the students who are participating, they are not recorded, and their students who come ask whatever questions are top of mind. So we'll, with the students' permission, pull up previous student's profile or look at an application response and things along those lines. And then lastly, the Create Your Own Micro-Internships. That is a quarterly webinar that is the name is pretty self-explanatory, but for those students who are the real go-getters, who have connections or maybe are comfortable putting themselves out there to try to pursue connections with target companies through this program, if it's an Indiana-based employer, they certainly can go in and with contacts that they may have established at a various networking event or what have you, this webinar will teach them how they can professionally approach those organizations to create their own micro-internship opportunity. So we also have a variety of marketing materials ready to go for these students. So whether it be the program website, which I know Annie plugged into the chat earlier, and I'm sure we'll put that in again, but also an email, a webinar blurb for them, as well as a newsletter or social media blurb, all ready to go. These are all buttons, by the way, when you're getting these slides that you can click on to directly access these particular resources. But when you're thinking about the students to share this with, think broadly. Include all majors, all academic years. If you still connect with your recent grads, they are certainly welcome and are encouraged to participate as well. Think about those whose students are listening to, such as your faculty, academic advisors, student athletes, coaches, and so on. And we have this IEDC micro-internship program page for students. But if you are a Parker Dewey partner already and have a landing page for your students, great, you can still send them to that. They don't need to go to this separate IEDC page. The user experience for them will be the same. And so if having that branded your institution's logo on the website is best for them, which usually it is, then certainly you can continue to promote that particular page. And again, if you don't have a Parker Dewey landing page or a partner institution, happy to help you get set up with that. Now, if you're interested in engaging additional employers, our advice here is to first think about those organizations' needs. Think about who has open roles posted on whatever platform you're using. Those might be a good starting point to think about where a micro-internship could help drive engagement and interest for that particular company. You can also suggest to these companies, maybe they can offer micro-internships to targeted populations of students based on a club or based on their affiliation with XYZ sport or what have you. And so just to give you some tangible examples, my advice to you, let us help. We have a client engagement team that would love to sit down and again, brainstorm with you. We may have ties to those companies that you're trying to target. And given the plethora of Indiana connections that we have within our team just inherently, our CEO is an IU grad. One specific example, our VP of Business Development lives in Indianapolis. So just to give you, again, two specific examples, we're here and happy to help and connect you to the folks we know to be able to mutually beneficially connect with these organizations to get them plugged in to participating in this program and connecting with your students. Also think again about those companies who are coming to the career fair. This could be that exclusive opportunity to help drive that engagement at their event. And then also those who are sponsoring your institution. We would love to brainstorm with you where how this could plug in to a pre-existing sponsorship program. Think of this as a no-cost way to thank those employer sponsors. And it again drives not only a nice benefit for those companies, but those professional opportunities for your students to get that paid experience. Which leads me to my last item of a wish list on your to-do list, and that is, let us help. Schedule time with us. We are always available, happy, excited. We love having conversations, strategic conversations with you about where and how this could plug in to whatever else is going on at your very, very busy institution. So whether it be employer engagement, you're looking for new opportunities to engage alumni, that sponsorship piece that I briefly mentioned, et cetera, those are just a few ideas. We'd love to brainstorm and share best practices and case studies of what other institutions are doing nationwide. And so if you're not already, we would also love to partner with you. The reason we use partnership intentionally is it's exactly what this is. There is a direct correlation with how successful your students are, with how much you're promoting programs like this to your employers and other stakeholders. And we want to help make this as easy for you as possible so that your students and employers can be as successful as possible. And so first and foremost, we'll set up that landing page or pages for your institution or to promote employers, to promote to students. It's customized, branded, and you can see the items that we need, the turnaround time within a day or two. This is not some massive lead up. We'll get this turned around and ready to go very, very quickly. We also have a ton of additional marketing materials, if what we've shared already isn't quite fitting the bill, that aligns with any type of audience that you're interested in engaging: alumni, faculty, employers, students, etc. And we'll happily engage on an ongoing basis to provide you with the latest best practices. We want to hear what is most pressing for you and what is going on at your institution. What are your pain points, so that we can help strategize where and how this could fit in so that it's low lift for you, but also aligns with these other strategic goals of your institution. And then lastly, data, because we all know how important it is. And of course, how measurable your student success is directly correlated with things like funding and your employer satisfaction and so on. And with Parker Dewey, we have a lot of data we can and are able to share, whether that be how many students have created accounts, who they've worked with, how much they've made, but even more interesting, the feedback that the students have received, so that you can really gain some valuable insights on some of those core skills that your students do exceptionally well, and maybe where there might be a student or two who needs some proactive coaching. You can also gain some really great insights from companies, be able to see, oh, how are we supporting companies in XYZ industry? Well, this could be a great catalyst to help some of those newer industries like Tony mentioned earlier that are new to Indiana and are excited to expand their operations and who are going to need some of this great early career talent. And so to that end, it's my last little bit of news before we'll turn it over to you all and whatever questions are top of mind, is that Parker Dewey recently launched a tool called Parker Dewey Plus, which allows you to have access to the data that I just mentioned on demand. So again, reporting about who's created accounts, who has posted projects, who the students that the companies your students have worked with, etc. All of it's available on demand. You can see your students' responses to those application questions. So those of you who work with students or employers can both find value in being able to access and proactively engage the various audience and support both students and employers. Now, this particular option was developed based on feedback from you, from our partners, who said we need data, we need to be able to show the impact of where micro-internships can and are affecting change and helping our students and employers connect. And so we built this, again, with that in mind. This is an optional step of upgrade to our basic no-cost partnership. But what we're asking and what we're saying with Indiana colleges and universities who are participating in this program is that you can have access to Parker Dewey Plus for this initial program at no cost. So thank you for doing the things that we just mentioned, for sharing the program with employers, for sharing it with your students. That's our ask. Promote the program. We are happy to give you the data to show how effective it was. Because quite frankly, the data isn't useful unless you're promoting opportunities like this to your students and to your employers. So we'll have a lot of follow-up information shared with you on how you can get started and how easily you can start promoting these particular programs. But again, our big asks are these 4 things. Share the program with employers. We've got pre-crafted marketing materials to make this super quick and easy. Share the program with students. Identify those employers that you want to proactively engage or bring to your institution and where this might help facilitate that, and let us know how we can help. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm sure there are questions that I did not address, but I'd love to turn the table over to Annie, Jeffrey, and Tony if there's things I missed or what questions are top of mind.
Hey, Kristen, great job. Amazing walkthrough in a short period of time. One, I'll apologize, everyone. In my office, we had to evacuate, so I'm over at another office now. But I want to share a couple things. One, Kristen's asked to share this with your employer partners. I want to let you know that we will be sharing this across our network within the economic development space. So think your local economic development organizations, regional economic development organizations, the Indiana Chamber, the Small Business Development Corp, SBDC. If you're familiar with the Central Indiana Corporate Partnerships and their initiatives like Connexus, Ascend, Agronovus, BioCrossroads, and TechPoint, we're going to ask them to do the same. The defense industry that's in the state of Indiana. So the reach that we're going to get in partnership with you at the universities and colleges is going to be pretty big. I look at this, when I was at GE and University Relations, and what I would hear from you is, we want to be able to reach that company. If I'm in the northeast portion of Indiana, but they're in the southwest portion of Indiana, and they're not coming to, let's just say, the Fort Wayne area, this is a great way to get exposure to those companies that may not be coming to your campus, like Kristen said earlier. Another thing is this is being funded, and think of it as, the kindling of the fire to, get the fire going or to get the flywheel going. That's the intent here. There's not unlimited funds, but a significant amount of micro-internships that will be available, that are, I should say, are available to companies. And I talked earlier about the 53,000 jobs that have been created over the last 2.5 years. We've all heard the language war for talent, but we're competing with every other state to bring business and keep business in the state of Indiana. And really, this goes back to, my why and why I'm in this role. And it's really, I want our children and our children's children to have a better opportunity than me. And this is a big piece of how we're going to differentiate the state of Indiana and support the companies throughout the state of Indiana. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. I'm scrolling through and it looks like there were a lot of questions that were answered. Annie or Jeffrey, are there other things that perhaps should be addressed live for anyone who may have missed?
I just want to emphasize, if you or any companies that you're talking with have questions, feel free to reach out to our team. We are here for all the questions. We understand this might be new for some companies or even for your campus, and we want to make sure everybody understands what is going on, how to get involved, and most importantly, how to support your students in this process. So we're here for all the questions. Kristen really means it with book a meeting with her or shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to support you.
Hey, there was a question that came in that Jeffrey reminded me about, and it's, number of projects per company. When we were looking at doing this, one of the things that I said earlier was we want to support those businesses that don't have that brand awareness across the state, but those small and medium-sized companies and even large companies that don't have that brand awareness. So number of projects per company, ideally, a company is going to have many needs. And so I kind of, one example I was sharing with someone earlier is think tech, maybe finance and, HR, but maybe they have 2 or 3 different areas where they know that they can develop a project. Getting that project up on the portal is going to give exposure to that company. Ideally, again, if we could, we want to spread as many projects out. We want to be able to reach as many companies as possible. So, I'm not going to say that there's going to be a limit, but, if some company came in and said, hey, we want to do 25 projects, probably not going to happen, because we want to make sure that we're sharing this, spreading this out amongst as many companies as we can around the state of Indiana. I hope that answers the question that came up.
And companies are also welcome to self-fund projects beyond what is initially provided thanks to the IEDC program. We see that happen all the time. And in fact, that's a big goal, is we want this to not only just support that one amazing student who was selected for the first micro-internship, but that through doing that project, the company realizes, wow, this is an amazing student. And gosh, the student is in a school that's not on my radar, or not on a major that I would have normally connected, or maybe is a different class year than I would normally go, or whatever. I should be doing more. So this allows them to access a broader array of talent of students and give more opportunities to these students that they may have otherwise missed.
And one thing, this is Jeffrey here jumping in. one thing just to reiterate, and I think it comes across from what Tony just shared and Kristen, we are here to help. And I give Tony a ton of credit, and I think a lot of it comes from his time at GE and engaging with so many colleges and universities across the US to recognize that every situation is unique. So we obviously don't want a situation where Eli Lilly is using 25 of these projects just because they view it as quote unquote free labor. But we want to have the flexibility that if you're talking to someone in the marketing department at Eli Lilly about a marketing role and someone else on your team is talking with someone around a tech role, there is that flexibility. It is not a bright line test. So please, please, please reach out to any of us. If you're having questions about specific companies and making sure we're not going too far, but also if you have specific ideas. One of the reasons I'm so excited that Kristen and Annie and their entire team is part of the Parker Dewey team is, as Kristen said, they all come from the university side. Every one of these ideas that Kristen shared, whether it's around how to drive more interest in your career fairs, whether it's tying it to sponsorships, whether it's around helping employers target specific students, those aren't our ideas. They all came from schools with very specific use cases. One of the schools just reached out to us talking about how they want to engage recent alums, individuals who are graduating in the workforce. They want to get them back into campus, not necessarily as mentors and not necessarily to formally recruit because they're not in HR, but as pipelines into their companies, as ways to turn them into advocates. It's a great use case. It's one I hadn't thought about before, and we love collaborating with the schools on these ideas. So please, please, please reach out.
Hey, one other point I want to bring up. I know we're walking up on time. And Kristen, if you mentioned this when I was going from building A to building B, I apologize. You know, the assignment leader, who's going to own this project with the company is going to be very important. That, you know, it's a short duration, but that individual that's the assignment leader for the micro-internship that they're hosting, it's really, really important that they've got active engagement. And then once the project's completed, that they, you know, if it's a match, shall we say, they've got to really work it and make sure that they convert that student into an internship, another micro-internship, or a full-time role. So again, Kristen, I don't know if you mentioned that, but you know, that assignment leader for each company that's managing the program is really got to be all in on this.
Yeah, and what we hear from the companies is that they have that vested interest. They want the project to be successful, but that this is also capacity building for them, because this is a project that, you know, oftentimes will bring that fresh perspective. I know from my experience, I've used micro interns both for something I didn't want to spend my Saturday doing, but also for, oh, I would love to have a new insight, a new take on this particular, you know, thing that I'm working on, a PowerPoint presentation, for example, just to get the messaging right and get a fresh set of eyes. So it's something that, yes, it's, you know, something that the project supervisor needs to and you know, should have that vested interest, but it's not something that requires a lot of work. It's not like they are managing an intern, and certainly not like it's something that's they're going to be managing for 3 months, 40 hours a week, you know, that kind of thing, like some of them may be more familiar with.
And I'll give one other example. There's a medical device company we do a ton of work with. And one of the projects they posted, they were very specifically looking for mechanical engineers who may not have wanted to be in the laboratory upon graduation. So they had 5 students or 10 students do a project tied to researching this company's product, putting together a brief presentation on it, blah, blah, blah. And what they were doing is they were using this project as a way to engage those students and to assess their skills, to see which of those mechanical engineering students could actually be a good fit for a sales engineer role. Again, more of a business development role where that technical knowledge is necessary. The hiring manager was able to kick off the project, spent 15 minutes kicking it off, quickly reviewed the work product that was done, selected students who they ultimately wound up hiring, but it wasn't this massive time commitment. Again, you need the hiring manager or the individual at the company to be involved, but it is intended not to be a heavy lift. And I think there was a question from Caroline. I see a hand raised.
Why don't you go ahead and, Caroline, why don't you go ahead and ask the question? You should be able to ask now.
Looks like she's on mute.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pause and stop our recording. So anybody who does have questions that they don't want